Hey everyone, and welcome to our channel. I am Gio of Epicenter Media, and in a bit we are going to be going over my review of our 2017 Giulia Quadrifoglio. So recently we were invited over to the Just You and Us podcast ran by a great group of guys named Mason and Connor. They interviewed us about our channel, its vision, its goals, and what we see for it in the future. And then we also had just really good conversation about everything revolving the automotive industry. So while on the podcast, it really inspired me to start posting other content involving our other vehicles. So let's get started with the review of my daily driver, the Alfa Romeo Giulia Quadrifoglio. So I'll just start right off by saying that this is probably the best and most powerful car that I've had the privilege of both owning and driving. My car history from the beginning is a 90 CRX SI, 2001 Honda S2000, the Camaro SS, and several Jeep Wranglers, and the Gladiator. And then as far as other cars that I've driven that I'd compare this to, or that are notable, would be a Maserati Gran Turismo S and an SRT10 Viper. And I would say this car is better for a multitude of reasons, but not without its drawbacks, which I'll get to later. So for those who don't know, the Alfa Romeo Giulia Quadrifoglio shares a very similar engine to the Ferrari F154, which is found in the 488s, just minus 2 turbos. So this is the 2.9 liter twin turbo V6, and it produces 505 horsepower and 443 foot-pounds of torque, which snaps a speedo to 0 to 60 in about 3.9 seconds. So a lot of people argue about how you need a manual transmission in order to feel the car, which I have to agree, feel is important, and I was a skeptic about paddle shifted transmissions, but I gotta say that this thing is lightning fast and faster than I'd ever be in changing them manually. I mean, it just goes. Having come from smaller cars like my CRX or the S2000, I have to say this car doesn't drive like a large car. It handles and feels like a much smaller car than it is, and its steering input is sensitive. You feel there isn't a numbness between you and the road like there might be in other larger sedans. And once again, the 505 horsepower just are remarkable. Like, you put your foot down in the power band and it just goes. The engine makes its power, I'd say, in a pretty linear fashion. It just kind of surges through the whole power band. It can bog if you're say maybe below 2800 RPM and you want to get on it. There's a little bit of a lag in the turbos, but beyond that, it just yanks all the way to its red line. The exhaust note on this, I'd say, leaves me wanting a little more. It is a really nice tone, but it's not as loud as I may want it to be, so in the future I might swap out the X-pipe on that to get a little more decibels. The interior of the car is really nice. No, they didn't skimp anywhere in building this. It doesn't share Chrysler parts as much as, let's say, the Ghibli does. The steering wheel, I've seen the pictures of the MC20 that Maserati is about to release, and it's nearly identical to the MC20. It's got a multitude of really nice materials. It's got Alcantara, aluminum, carbon fiber, and the big red start button adds a nice touch to it. The paddle shifters also have a really nice feel, and they're extremely responsive in your gear changes. And it makes a nice crack in the exhaust on the way up. The braking performance on this thing is really astonishing. I've never driven a car with such large disc brakes, and I think they're Brembo calipers. I could be wrong, but either way, its braking performance is insane. This Quadrifoglio came with the beautiful Sparco seats, which I really, really love. I love their look, the feel. Again, the mix of materials with Alcantara, leather, and carbon fiber. And I also really like the embossed Alfa logo in the headrest. I think it's a really nice touch. Adds a very sporty yet refined look to the car. So the drawbacks with this car so far, it left me stranded one time on the highway. I was just driving along and I was on an exit and I got on the brakes like you normally would, and the car just completely died while rolling. So pulled over on the shoulder, called Alpha Care, I believe it's called, the customer service, and they sent a tow out for me about an hour later. Anyways, so come to find out that the fuel level indicator was over-reporting the amount of fuel left in the tank. So I was still at about 60 miles till empty. The first warning light hasn't come on yet, and the car just completely ran out of gas without any warning. Along with that, I guess I killed the battery trying to start it the few times that I was there on the shoulder. And so for some reason at the dealership, it took 10 days to get the car back for just a battery swap and a software update. So that's one drawback of the Alfa ownership is that wait times for parts and knowledgeable technicians in your area might be lacking. Another possible drawback of owning an Alfa Romeo, as everybody knows, is its potential for unreliability. Alfa seems to have resolved most of this in the latest lineup with the Giulia, the Stelvio, and the 4C, but people, and like myself, are still skeptical, and it'll be a matter of time before Alfa can establish itself as a decently reliable company. One last little issue that I just remembered about this car might be the Pirelli P0s that come with it from the factory. They leave a little to be desired. This car just hit 10,000 miles and they're already probably 60%-ish done with their tread. So I will be upgrading those. A lot of people on the Alfa forums say to switch over to the Michelin MP4 SS's, I believe they're called. So I'll be looking into those. Also, these Pirellis do like a strange wheel hop when you're turning full lock at low speeds. I'm not sure what that's about, but I think that goes away a little bit when you change over to the Michelins. So another concern of mine with owning this car is that its factory warranty will be expiring next year, and I'll have to rely on an extended warranty in order to take care of it afterwards. And I'm also worried that if anything should ever go wrong with it, that it will have to sit in the Alfa shop for weeks on end because of parts availability and the lack of Alfa specific technicians in the area. Overall, this car has been an absolute joy to own and drive. Every time I get inside this thing, I'm excited. I look forward to my little commute to work every morning. It just puts a smile on my face. Amber will tell you that, so before we bought this one, I was test driving I test drove the local one in town at the Alfa dealership, and she was excited for me because she saw how happy I was driving it for the first time. I've never driven an M3 or say an AMG, but I'm sure this thing is equally comparable, and if not better. So if you're in the market for a high-performance sedan, like say the Audis, BMWs, Mercedes, I would absolutely recommend you give this thing a fair shot. It is comparable, if not better in some cases, than those cars, and because it's rarity, like it puts it in a different class. You're not gonna see this on one of these on the road every time you go out for a drive. Well guys, that was my take on our 2017 Alfa Romeo Giulia Quadrifoglio. Stay tuned for more content involving the Alfa as well as the other vehicles in our lineup. We'll be showing you the different modifications and journeys we take them on. So yeah, stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching.